Singapore and globalization. Over the past 8 weeks, I've had the opportunity to intern in the beautiful city of Singapore in a local biotech company. When I first arrived in Singapore, I thought that the most important lessons I'd learned during my internship would be related to bacteria and molecular biology as a whole. Boy, was I wrong. Although I did learn a lot about the nuances of biology, the real treasure I got during my time abroad would come from my welcoming coworkers and my lack of cellular data. Without the tools of modern technology, I began to truly appreciate the value that human interaction brings to cross-cultural experiences and understand the true meaning of global citizenship. This lesson started on the third day I was in Singapore. My friends and I wanted to visit the local mosque and Ramadan Bazaar, but had taken a wrong turn when exiting the MRT. Probably sensing our distress, an elderly couple approached us to help. As they were giving us directions, they kindly shared some of their favorite stands at the bazaar and imparted some advice on how to fully immerse ourselves into Singaporean society. One of their recommendations, which has stuck with me, was to take a break from the MRT every once in a while and walk along the streets of the island city. On the following Monday, I met my coworkers for the summer and started a dialogue that would continue throughout my time in Singapore. For the first lunch break, we went to a local hawker center and I was completely overwhelmed. Each stand was selling its own unique dish and the lines were going incredibly fast, so I didn't have time to think before reaching the front. To my relief, however, my coworker Daryl noticed my distress and ordered my lunch for me. I would later learn that Daryl made it a goal for himself to try food from every stand in Singapore and know the best dishes at each hawker center. According to him, it was a Singaporean's responsibility to try all the food on the island and know all of the good stands. Whenever I tried a new hawker center from that point on, I always kept it in mind to ask Daryl what was the best stand to try. When everybody had gotten their food, my coworkers started asking me about my experiences in Berkeley and the foods I had tried in Singapore thus far. When I started sharing with them that I went to school 3.5 hours away from my parents' home, they reacted in shock. Through the conversation, I'd learned that most students in Singapore actually continue to live with their parents well until they're married, usually well into their mid-20s. It was the first apparent cultural difference my coworkers and I had discussed during our lunch break. Both parties were happy to learn about different ways of life and were receptive to each other's philosophies as well. This established a foundation of open conversation on topics such as public housing, American fraternities, politics, social disparities, and the role of political incorrectness in everyday life. By being willing to share their personal experiences in Singapore with me, my coworkers allowed me to gain a better understanding of the strictly regulated, publicly funded society that is Singapore. Once I developed a strong foundation of cross-cultural communication in Singapore, my friends and I were able to use these concepts of open dialogue and living in the moment in our travels across Southeast Asia. When we visited the sacred site of Angkor Wat, for instance, we took the time to learn about Cambodia's colonial and communist past. Throughout our tour of the sacred Buddhist and Hindu site, our guide shared with us his family's personal struggles with poverty and their survival stories with the period of the Khmer Rouge. Hearing our guide share how his wife, a 6-year-old at the time, survived the shooting by the communist regime that killed the rest of her family and left her for dead with a bullet still lodged in her abdomen, brought this history into our reality and accentuated the human tragedy that the communist period brought upon the Cambodian people. Although I had learned about the Khmer Rouge in history classes, our guide's kindness and openness grounded us in the fact that the victims of these regimes were actual people. Our guide's stories will stay with us forever. When we visited Mount Bromo and a local fisherman called Surabaya, we approached the locals with the same intrigue and spent some time sharing our backgrounds and experiences as well. Even through Google Translate, we were able to learn about the local schooling system from a traveling headmaster, the religious significance of Mount Bromo from a local guide, and the culinary culture from a kind customer at a local restaurant. These experiences truly allowed us to gain a sense of these local communities' past through the dialogue, which would not have been able to occur if we had been limited to online data and guidebooks. My time abroad taught me the importance of being present. By setting aside the valuable tools of modern technology out of necessity, I discovered the value of conversations and investing my time in building relationships with people in person. By the time my internship came to a close, I had stopped worrying about if I can start an experiment at a specific time, but instead started to make a concerted effort to finish my conversations organically and check in with each of my coworkers on a regular basis. In doing so, I was able to separate myself from the complexities of daily life in the ever-changing and globalizing world and focus on the person in front of me. By approaching each interaction from small talk in a grocery store queue to discussions about international politics with an open mind and intent, I was able to gain a better understanding into the locals' daily lives, cultures, and traditions. Their knowledge and experience provided invaluable insights into Singaporean society and helped me understand the intricacies of the intercultural interactions happening globally in the 21st century. This insight allowed me to become a better global citizen and appreciate the world around me. To summarize, by engaging with the local community during my time abroad, I grew to truly realize that personal relationships are just as, if not more important, than understanding complex political theories and concepts in the quest to becoming a global citizen. Listen to the people around you. You'd be surprised how much they know and how much you can learn from them.